The problem with this legislation is it's a knee-jerk reaction, and I'm sorry to say this, but it's more like a political grave dancing, right? And absolutely, it would not stop one gun crime. Even if they eliminate all the guns right now, criminals will always find a way to find firearms or find tools to do their deeds.
Yeah, and we spoke off camera, Jay, that the legislation that's in Bill C-21, it basically is all about banning anything that resembles a gun. So that means airsoft guns, that means paintball guns. In theory, I might not be able to go to Dollarama in the future and buy a little $2 squirt gun because that resembles a gun. Am I reading this right?
Yes, the legislation basically, in layman's term, anything that resembles form, function, or operation of a banned handgun or firearm will be banned.
David Menzies for Rebel News here in Mississauga, Ontario, and I'm with Jay Tan. He is the owner of Action Air Canada. And you might be aware of a bit of legislation that's gone through first reading. That is Bill C-21, otherwise known as Justin Trudeau's gun grab. And in fact, there's something like more than 1,500 guns that are going to be legislated out of existence in Canada. And but when I say guns, I don't mean just guns that are actually lethal, that shoot bullets. We're talking airsoft guns. And Jay here, well, he's one of many operators in Canada that if this legislation passes, he will be forced out of business. Jay, I just can't believe it. When I walked into your store and I asked you how many of these guns that you sell here on the wall will be legislated out of existence, your answer was?
All of them.
All of them.
All of them. Unfortunately, with the airsoft guns, because they look such like a real firearm, they will be, with the C-21 being passed, they will be outlawed and banned.
And what is the clear and present danger of an airsoft gun?
If you're an enthusiast like myself, there is none. But if you're a criminal, this looks enticing. However, if you're a criminal, you won't be purchasing, $600 airsoft toy gun when you can rent one or buy one on the street for cheaper.
So, Jay, what the Justin Trudeau Liberals are doing is that they are legislating out of existence a bunch of rifles and handguns that are used by the airsoft community, and they're basing their logic on the fact that these, kind of look lethal. They kind of look like the real McCoy in terms of the real firearms, when in fact, these aren't lethal at all.
No, they're not. We've been using airsoft guns. Personally, I've been using them for over 30 years for fun. They're just like paintball or, like the modern version of cowboy and Indians.
Yes.
They shoot non-lethal 6mm plastic BBs. You can't even break a glass at 40 feet.
So, Jay, if this gun grab is being done on the ostensible policy reason that it's all about improving the safety in Canada, let's jump ahead 2 years. Let's say all these are eradicated. All the airsoft guns are gone out of Canada. This airsoft range that we're standing in, it doesn't exist. Does that end up being the proverbial hill of beans? And by that I mean, is that going to stop one handgun crime in Canada?
Absolutely not. Absolutely not. It's not going to stop anything.
So really what we're looking at here is political street theater. It is the Justin Trudeau Liberals going after guns that look nasty to some people. It's kind of like city mouse, country mouse. I mean, for those who aren't part of the gun community, the airsoft community, paintball, they might see this as being somewhat intimidating, but they're not. They're not harmful at all. But it's almost as though the Justin Trudeau Liberals are preying upon the ignorance, I guess, of urban Canadians, people who have no interest in guns whatsoever, in terms of putting forth this bill.
Exactly. That's exactly what he's doing. Unfortunately, we're the minority in this area. Because we have a lot to lose, like our hobbies, our personal investment, personal property. And it absolutely do nothing against gun crime. In fact, I don't think it'll make any significant changes or even little changes. The problem with this legislation is it's a knee-jerk reaction, and I'm sorry to say this, but it's more like a political grave dancing, right? And absolutely, it would not stop one gun crime. Even if they eliminate all the guns right now, criminals will always find a way to find firearms or find tools to do their deeds.
Yeah, and we spoke off camera, Jay, that the legislation that's in Bill C-21, it basically is all about banning anything that resembles a gun. So that means airsoft guns, that means paintball guns. In theory, I might not be able to go to Dollarama in the future and buy a little $2 squirt gun because that resembles a gun. Am I reading this right?
Yes, the legislation basically, in layman's term, anything that resembles form, function, or operation of a banned handgun or a firearm will be banned. So, if your Nerf gun looks like an AR, for example, they will be banned.
A Nerf gun?
Yes, sir. Yep. Yep.
What staggers me is that the Minister of Public Safety is Bill Blair. Bill Blair used to be the chief of police in Toronto. He knows about gun crime. He knows who the gangbangers are. He knows what the real problems are. You would think somebody with the background of the chief of police of the largest city in Canada would have an awareness of what the real problems are, but it seems that he's singing from the same political song sheet as his colleagues.
Oh, yep. Lately, he's been quoting the CPAC, which is the Canadian Chief of Police Association, and how he always says, they support the ban and stuff like that. But that's over 10 years ago, right? A lot of police know airsoft. A lot of police use airsoft as a training tool, right? And they know who the bad guys are. They know that 99% of the airsoft enthusiasts will treat this like a firearm, and they will treat them like they're a real firearm. So much so as they'll handle it the same way, they'll transport it the same way, and that 1% are the criminals. And it doesn't matter what ban you enforce, criminals will always be criminals.
and if you were a criminal, if you were a bona fide bad guy, Jay, sure, how is an airsoft gun going to help you carry out your nefarious means? Surely they would want, an illegal handgun, and that market is still going to thrive if and when this bill passes.
Well, if they do make the C-21 as law and wipe out everything, the black the black gun market is just going to rise up. It's going to get more popular because criminal will always find a way, right? You're not going to buy a $700 airsoft gun to go rob a bank when you can buy or rent one for less than $200.
And Jay, maybe I'm wrong, but I can never recall a story where I've read about, say, a bank robbery where an airsoft weapon was used. Is that correct?
Yes, sir. There's been absolutely nowhere in the history in the past 30 years of airsoft existence that airsoft being used as a robbery tool.
So in other words, Bill C-21, at least when it comes to the airsoft industry and community, this is a solution that is in search of a problem because that problem doesn't exist.
Exactly. There are thousands and thousands of enthusiasts in Ontario alone, not even in Canada, just in Ontario alone. And if we're the problem, you'll know about it, right? You'll hear about it in the news. But we're very respectful on the law, where we respectful of the public safety. In fact, if you go to any airsoft games, there's always safety briefing. There's always safety. Safety is paramount over anything in airsoft. And that's including transportation, usage of it, right? Storage, everything is paramount. Safety is paramount. So, for C-21 to target us, it's a little bit unfair, and I think it's just like a political movement. It's not even a safety aspect of it.
I agree, and it's so typical of the Justin Trudeau Liberals to carry forth such useless legislation as this. I think the good news, in a way, I think, Jay, is that the rumor mill is churning that we're going to see a federal election in either late spring, early summer. If that is the case, because it's only gone through first reading, that means this bill will die on the committee table. But, of course, if the Trudeau Liberals come back with another government, I imagine there'd be nothing stopping them from introducing a similar bill with the same kind of mandate.
Yeah, probably. Most likely they'll probably do that because all of us, even in the firearm community, we know that the Liberal governments are all anti-guns.
Yeah.
Even though we're one of the most vetted, one of the most safe bunch of citizens that the government can vet, right? But we're still being targeted.
Boy, it makes you pine for the Second Amendment like our brothers south of the border, doesn't it?
Well, I kind of like our system a little bit better. The Canadian system, even though it's not the perfect system, but it actually differentiates from the U.S. because it's a right. It's a right in the U.S., but it's a privilege in Canada. So you have to pass certain certification, certain qualification to actually own a firearm. Right? In the U.S., it's not. Right, so.
But this is clearly your rights or if you want to call it a privilege, being trampled on by the government, not for any public safety measure, but for political optics. I think, Jay, a little crystal ball gazing, if this bill does pass in whatever form in the months and years ahead, and this government is legally saying we're coming after these guns, we're shutting down these kind of places, what is the potential remedy? Are you considering any kind of legal action to challenge this in the courts?
We'll absolutely look at different venues, like different options of what we can do. However, like if the C-21 does become a law, there will be a lot of business going to shut down. That's not just a retail part; it's also the fields and all the other suppliers. So there'll be a lot of Canadians out of work again.
Jay, I hope that doesn't happen to you. Thank you so much for taking the time to speak with me. You have a wonderful shop here. I know you're a law-abiding airsoft provider, and I know that's your clientele fall into that same definition as well. So I just think it's heartbreaking, especially with what we've had to endure with the pandemic, that you've got your own federal government coming after you with legislation that, as I said earlier, it's not going to result in a single violent crime incident being eradicated because these are no longer for sale. It doesn't make sense to me.
Yep, exactly. I wish they would come up with something a little bit more viable, a little bit better solution than just a knee-jerk reaction. But that's wishful thinking.
Well, I wish you the best. And folks, what can I tell you? That it is so typical of the Justin Trudeau Liberals to do something like this. Again, it is all about optics. It's all about, I guess, some form of political correctness. It's all about pushing the narrative that guns are bad, even non-lethal guns. Like I said, I imagine it'll be only a matter of time before even that little squirt gun at the toy shop or Dollarama is also on the verboten list. What a disgrace. For Rebel News, I'm David the Menzoid Menzies. Well, folks, you probably heard the news by now. YouTube is undoubtedly coming to kill us. They have completely demonetized us. The other day, they gave us a strike for no good reason whatsoever. So please, we want you to stay in touch with Rebel News. Go to rebelnews.com. That's rebelnews.com. We need some of your personal information, such as your email or cell phone number. Trust me, we don't share that with anyone. But we want to remain relevant to you, and we can't depend on YouTube any longer.